So I just got reprimanded by literally my family because my shorts are too long, which I don't think they are. They literally come just below, like maybe a half an inch below my knee, and everyone's like, those are man shorts. Those are like capris. I'm like, how are they capris? A capri comes down to your shin.
Basically pedophile trousers.
Oh my god.
Hello, I'm Nipper Reed.
And I'm Phil Wolf.
So, settle down, have a nice cup of tea, and enjoy the Venomous Exchange Radio podcast.
Crumpets, Nipper. I want the crumpets.
Well, as you've been such an extraordinarily good boy.
In this episode, we speak with Scott and Ty Eipper about their new book, Australasian Elapids, Husbandry, Captive Care and Ecology. Through their countless years of hands-on experience and worldly education, the Eippers have compiled what is now considered by most to be the future template for all reptile enthusiast literature. The Eippers elegantly orchestrate an abundance of field herping knowledge, care and maintenance in captivity, range maps, and in-depth bionomics. And in my opinion, they've truly bridged the gap between desired reference and a genuine field guide. But with 575 pages and over 1,000 photographs, you may not want to carry it around too much. Now, without further ado, Scott and Ty Eipper.
I've seen your knees, Phil. You've got lovely knees. You should show them to the world.
Oh, thank you. They're always so dirty.
Yeah, I know. That's what I like about them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Venom Exchange Radio, episode number 10. 10 freaking episodes, Nip.
I know, it's ridiculous. I've put up with you for this long.
It's good. But tonight, well, can't talk because it's early for me, but it's late for them. Our friends on the other side of the world, the Eippers.
Hello.
G'day, how you going?
So, episode 10, we got to make it monumental, and we did. With what's that, Neb?
No, I was going to say we did make it monumental because we got the Eippers on.
We do. We have the Eippers on, and I'm holding a book I've waited a very, very long time for. It is very, very soft to the touch. It's very thick, full of beautiful pictures, exquisite knowledge. Australasian Elapids, Husbandry, Captive Care and Ecology by the Eippers. Epic.
What a tomb. Love it.
You can use it as a doorstop.
You could choke a horse with this book.
Knock someone out with it pretty simply.
It's currently on my It's currently on my bedside cabinet in case I get burgled in the night. I can use it for home defense.
I was going to say, does Ali use it as a step in the kitchen?
She could do.
Ali, I'm cooking for you.
Oh, mate, you're so brave when she's not here.
And she's not going to listen to this either, so it's all good.
No, she does actually. She will.
Especially when I pull that audio clip as like the promo reel.
Yeah. You're not going to have 5 foot of angry Essex girl after you. Not a good thing. Very, very scary.
If that's what it takes to get you bastards to Oz, then so be it.
100%. Oh, mate, we want to come.
Yeah,
we want to come.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this has been a bit of a monumental affair. We're literally about 3 in positions that are about as far apart across the globe as we probably could get.
Yeah,
100%. I mean,
it's
for me,
logistical nightmare, but we love it.
For me, it's a lovely time of day. For me, it's lunchtime. It's sunny. It's about 15 degrees. It's lovely. Birds are singing.
So in other words, it's stinking hot for you guys.
Yeah, mate, I'm sweating out here. I mean, it's 15 degrees. I'm panicking.
So do you reckon that you're going to change prime ministers by the end of today, or is that going to be scheduled for tomorrow?
No, mate, they changing prime ministers more than I'm changing my underwear at the minute. I don't even get involved. I just play with my snakes in my snake building. That's all I give a shit about.
Wow. Nuts. Anyway, fun and games.
Yeah.
So, we wrote a book.
You guys
Oh,
wrote a book.
Yeah.
Hell of a book.
Yeah.
So how was the process of? I mean, I know we spoke to Ty earlier on, but from your perspective, don't be frightened because she sat next to you. Well, how was the process of writing a? I mean, it's not just a book, is it? It's not like a pamphlet. It is an epic book. It's massive.
It's a book that all other books will be of this genre will be modeled after, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. It is definitely the benchmark work for a long, long time. It'll outsee you two, no worries.
I suppose what I did a similar book to this, and I wrote it, the better part of 2010, 2011. So, that was written, obviously about 12 years ago. And the whole idea of that was to write the book that I would have wanted when I was first getting into venomous keeping. And, the whole series, the keeping and the guide to series that came out, you had Danny Brown did some books on lizards. Adam Elliott did books on turtles and pythons, and then I did frogs and snakes and colubrids, venomous snakes and colubrids. And the whole idea of it was we had a book that basically people could pick up and go, if you want to keep this is how you're going to do it. It took about 6 years or so, and after 6 years, those books all were well and truly out of print. And people are going, oh, you're going to do a revised edition, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Long story cut in half, we decided that it was going to take too long to try and do a revised edition. The publisher wasn't really interested in doing it. And so we were like, all right, well, that's fine. We'll sort of leave it be. And then, I get comments and people would sort of hit me up and going, hey, what's the chances of, can you send us a copy of the book, or can you send us some information or something or other?
I was one of them.
I was just like, and I just used to send people copies of bits and pieces out of the book. So if they wanted something on death adders, I'd just send it to them. If they wanted something on black snakes, I'd send it to them or whatever. And I was forever having to go, yeah, but this is how we did it, how I did it 10 years ago or whatever it was. And now I do things slightly differently, and this is what I'd recommend, etc. So I sort of got the shits a bit with it in the end, and I was sitting around here with Ty and a couple of other people, and we had this conversation, and they said, well, why don't you just bloody redo it? Oh, really? And then like, oh, yeah, all right, bugger it. So we cracked on, and I said, right, if we're going to do it, let's do it differently, and let's add all of the bits and pieces into it that we would have liked to have included in the first book that we didn't. And we wanted to include some species in it that, are that are more commonly kept overseas as well. And I wanted to make sure that Ty was giving us a lot of input into it as well, because at the end of the day, she's been keeping these animals with me for the better part of 15 odd years now. So
don't ever tell me off for not remembering our anniversary.
So Ty's been keeping these animals for 20 years, and before that, she had a snake collection as well. So, because we had these ideas, we were like, right, let's put it down. So that's what we did, and so we set out to well and truly revamp. But then I wanted to add all the bits and pieces to it that I didn't get to do the first time around. So that's what we did.
Did you have a publisher in mind before when you started working? Because obviously you went with Chimera, which is a very well-known, very well-respected European publisher. But they have most Chimera books have a certain layout and a certain format. Did you have that format in mind, or did your format just happen to fit in with how Chimera produces?
I picked up the Old World Vipers book by the late Tony Phelps. And I also picked up Asian Pit Vipers by Dick Visser. And I really liked both of those books, and so did Ty. We'd already had some Chimera publication. He's on a bit of a book whore, as Ty is as well. We both like our books. And so we already had a number of these books anyway, and we liked a lot of the things that the Chimera publications represented. We liked the fact that there was some flexibility, and at the end of the day, they're sort of the top echelon for the reptile keepers that are out there. Everyone who's into reptile books knows of the Chimera books and knows the sort of quality they put out. So we basically put together a bit of a proposal. We put together a species account and flicked it across and said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Yeah, can you do it in 12 months?" I was like, "Shit. Okay, well, it looks like we're going to be very busy."
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that the dynamic that Ty and I have, we're quite different people when it comes to how we approach a task.
Oh, very eloquently. Yeah.
I am quite meticulous when it comes to planning, and
Anal is probably the better word.
Yeah, anally retentive is probably a better way of phrasing it. And the reality of it is that I will set up a spreadsheet. I will articulate all of the things that I need to tick off to try and get across that to the point where how I'm going to get things peer reviewed, et cetera, timelines, et cetera, and basically push myself with a whole heap of deadlines. Ty
passes her way through it.
Ty decides he's going to do a bit on this, and then a bit on this, and a bit on this, and a bit on this. And so when I ask the question, "Where are you up to?" "Oh, well, I've done this and this, and I nearly have an aneurysm each time. So I've learnt to stop asking, and it's better for my stress levels, I suppose. But look, it gets there in the end. We get it done, and I think the beauty of it is that because we have such a different approach to things.
He concentrates on one thing and I'll focus on something else that he probably wouldn't have thought to put in or something like that. And it just works.
So
do you know off the top of your head how many species are actually made it into the book?
60. There's 60 species accounts in there.
60 species accounts, and they've all got multiple pictures. How did the logistics of sourcing all those pictures and writing the species accounts, plus the ancillary stuff on the keeping and the associated pictures? How did you get all that done in 12 months? That's insane.
Yeah, I was just thinking that your book is almost the exact same size as Dick Visser's book, and I know it took him years to compile that book. And like some of the photos, you can clearly see it's from like the late 70s, early 80s. And obviously they used old photos, but some of like his hand-drawn sketches that are in the book of like airflow for vivariums and, how light bounces off of certain objects and like dare I say decades. You guys killed it in a year. You know what I mean?
We are exceedingly lucky in the fact that we have a really good network of people which we rely on. Sometimes each publication right back from Scott's first one, and they always pull full through for us, always.
So, we're both herp photographers as well, right? So, I've got a library of 25,000 images, right? Ty's pushing
I don't
a lot.
Like you do.
Again, my anally retentiveness is the same thing in my filing system for my images, so I can pull them back fairly quickly. I know exactly what I've got. I know what I want.
It's just family photos that don't sort of get that categorizing to the.
And then I'll have a hit list of what we're chasing images of, whether it be localities or species or whatever. generally speaking, I'll know who's got those images, and then we'll talk to those people and say, hey, look, this is what we're chasing. Can we work something out? And that's what happened. So, people like Shane Black and Matt Somerville, Brian Bush, Hal Cogger, Brian Francis, Sanders Zimney, Ross McGibbon, Angus McNabb, those guys, Adam Elliott, those guys come through for us, every time. If we, happy to provide stuff to us, and then, do you know about this? Have you seen this? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, we can't thank these guys enough. And, you just got to look at the imagery that's in there to see, how incredible these, some of the photos that these guys take. It's art. It goes so much more than just a photograph. So what we sort of tried for, and this was my own personal thing, is I wanted to try and minimise any images in any of our publications if we can. We try not to repeat them because everyone likes seeing photos, yeah? Everyone likes to see new photos of things and different photos of things. So the plan is that if we could not repeat images...
I did want that red belly repeated because I like that image, and for me it's that sort of link from the past to the present in, I guess, how far a publication has come for us, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a few photos that were repeated in there, but for the most part, we use new images. And then even too, where we've got a headshot of something, we've tried to make sure that we used a different animal for the body shot. We tried to ensure that the different localities were represented by different taxa, by different photos, to provide the reader a bit of a visual feast, if you will, of the various sort of colour phases of lots and lots of different species. Some things that have been described as synonyms and things like that, described as different species, we wanted to show those different colour variations in there. And yeah, I suppose the beauty of having no limit when it came to the imagery, pretty much, we were like, well, let's knock off. The book ended up with 1,160 figures between the maps, the line drawings that Ty has done, the photos, the graphs, and all the rest of it. So there's a fair bit in there for if you don't want to read text. There's a lot of photos and stuff to look at.
So you guys, obviously you have your layout, you have what you want to write about, you start to write it. Now, do you compile the images and the maps and the graphs at the same time that you're actually writing, or do you write everything out for the most part, get the rough draft of the writing out and then think, okay, I talk about X, Y, and Z in this paragraph, I should have this kind of photo to go with it? How do you guys choreograph that?
We nailed out the species accounts first. We got down pat which species we wanted covered. We came up with ideas that we wanted to write about, and then we just sort of tasked ourselves with this and I'll do this sort of thing, really.
So when I put together the layout plan, it's basically all of the subheadings in the book, right? So if you look at foods and feeding, then we talk about how you introduce food, the frequency of the meals, size of meals, how to offer food, problem feeders, the different food types, and then strategies you can use to try and get animals to eat meals that don't want to eat, et cetera, et cetera. When it came to the housing, enclosure design, lighting, heating, and then you can split each of these things down, and by splitting them down to where you get to, you might end up be talking 2 or 3 paragraphs about a particular type of lighting system, and then 2 or 3 paragraphs about another lighting or heating system, et cetera, et cetera. And before you know it, it's turned into 300,000 words and a shitload of work. And then you're like, all right, well, we need photos of all of this stuff. And so then it's a matter of systematically going through and going, right, do we have photos of this? We don't have photos of it. Where can we get it? Where can we get the images from? And, we contacted, we've got a long history, but, Ty's been around the pet shop industry for decades as well. So she had a lot of contacts there. So then they came to the party and gave us products that we could then take photos of, or they gave us product photos that we could then use in the book to illustrate those points.
We still had so much stuff that we had bought for the original book.
Yeah.
Because we buy quality, but it looked old. Yeah. So we needed to buy a lot of new things as well to take photos of.
Yeah, get all fresh new look. I saw you got that big Midwest order, and like I can only imagine trying to source that stuff down by you guys. And I imagine that. What's that?
Dana was awesome. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And I totally understand what you're saying, where you have your one set of tongs that are like your tongs, and they've been with you through everything, and they're scratched and they're dinged and they've got a little rust on the hinge and they're yours, but you'll never get rid of those tongs ever again, but you can't put them in the book because they look dingy,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that for snake hooks. We don't have that for tongs because our tongs sit on the shelf and never get used. Australians don't use snake tongs for the handling of snakes. They use snake tongs for feeding rats to things or pulling a water bowl out. It's a little bit of a different way of handling over here, I suppose. So that's always interesting. We don't advocate the use of snake tongs for the handling of snakes in the book, basically because we've never done it. We've never needed to use tongs to handle snakes. Now, we're not saying that you can't do it, but we've never done it. And so that's the other thing that we wanted to make sure that, this book is a collective of our experiences. And so, it'd be silly for us to turn around and say, yeah, use snake tongs to do this, because we've never done that ourselves. So there's not a lot of point to that. We can see a value for them, and we're not anti them, I suppose, in the right hands. But for us, it's just something that we don't need to use for the management of our species. It seems to be similar in Europe as well. From we just got back from Germany, and the way that people were dealing with the animals over there, it's very largely hook based. A lot of non-contact, shift boxes and things like that, but it's not a lot of tong use, and it seems to be used. Tongs seem to be used a lot in South Africa, and they seem to be used a lot in America. So I suppose horses for courses is what you learn to use.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
But yeah, look, I've got a snake hook that's absolutely stuffed. It's held together with zip ties and silicone. It looks absolutely shocking. But I love the weight of that snake hook. I love the use of that snake hook. I've used that snake hook for decades. But it's not something that looks real nice in a photo, that's for sure. So, yeah. And too, we wanted to try out things like these innovative products that are out there. Like we spoke about the Midwest stuff. They've got this dual hook set up where you've got those two things. And it's funny, you talk to a lot of snake keepers about it, and a lot of people don't like it. They don't like the use of it.
I think too, though, they've just got the standard size. Dana modified ours for us because I'm a short ass, and we wanted to have it for the adders for the book. So it's a lot shorter than what it comes standard, and fuck, it's brilliant. I can't praise it enough. But
this is the one you were telling me. This is the one you were telling me has the very, very sensitive trigger.
No. This is a hook.
Oh, it's a hook. Excuse me.
So
I think I would struggle though if it was full length.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as easy to use. But
so this has got a 26-inch handle. From the tip of the handle to the throat of the hook is 26 inches. So it's quite short. It works really, really well. but it's a completely different way that you've got to learn to use it. So if you go to use it like you use a normal snake hook, you're going to struggle with it, right? So basically what I set myself a task was basically to use, and we've got a collection of around 100 plus snakes. I wanted to use this hook for everything that was larger than a juvenile. And so I wanted to use this one hook for everything and just get used to using it. So I was using on taipans, tiger snakes, brown snakes, black snakes. And it was very, very awkward and it was very difficult initially. But then you go around and you do a set of clean, and then you do another set of clean and another set of clean. And by the third time I was going around the room, I was using it really, really simply. And I was finding that animals that used to want to jump off the hook because they were not comfortable, these animals now felt supported and they weren't trying to flick off the hook, and it was easier to use. So it was a better management tool for the animals. So I suppose it's like everything. You've got to give these things a real go before you say that you're not going to use them or you don't like it or whatever. So.
And we can't dispute the quality of Midwest, hey? Like, you've got hooks that are over 20 years old easily, and they still function, look as good, not as good as new, but yeah, they're damn good. Damn good.
Can we put a link to that different hook so people can have a look at it?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, that'll be
grand. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, cool.
It's certainly a different thing, and they've got like a really wide version as well. There's a 2-inch wide version and a 4-inch wide version. I think they use the 4-inch wide version for moving around gaboon vipers and other large bitters and bothrops and shit like that. Lachesis, all those big bodied things. The thing that is a little bit awkward with it is because you've got 2 set points, the animal can actually go through the center of the hook. Now, it becomes a little bit problematic, but it's not something you can't not do.
Yes, it's not like you can't just let the snake go through and start over,
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, your snake building itself should be something that you can put the hook down and go and grab another hook if you need to.
Yeah, of course. Do you think with those, do you think with those, the having a longer foot to the actual hook would make it better or worse?
Worse.
Okay.
The difficulty with it is actually sliding it under the ventrals in the first place. So what most people do when they're using a hook, they tend to actually attack the snake or pick the snake up on the 45, and it's a scooping motion, right, that you're using to pick the snake up. With these things, you've got to come at it more like a 90-degree angle. So your wrist placement and your shoulder placement's completely different, and it's a little bit alien.
It does feel really awkward the first few times.
And so if you try and go to the side, you end up trying to hit the snake, and it's almost like you're punching the side of it. And what happens is the snake body just shifts over. So you just get this pushing action as opposed to sliding underneath and going underneath the snake.
Yeah. Like shuffleboard.
So you change it. Yeah, it basically, instead you're pushing it around with a stick as opposed to sliding and gliding underneath the ventral scales. And then once you've got the hook up, then you've got to be a little bit more cautious about how you roll it in your hand to make sure that you're supporting the body the right way. But once you figure those things out and you start to get some muscle memory attached to it and all the rest of it, it works beautifully. And, for people that like to double hook things, obviously, you can use your single hook as your lead-in hook and then bring this in as your secondary hook to support the body. And, because the body's already up, it's nice and easy to slide in.
Yeah, you get that good gap there once you've started with the single.
Yeah, so you start with the single, and then you've got that nice gap, bring the double back in underneath it, and then you've got an animal that's effectively almost sitting like on 3 hooks. So that snake is really well supported, and then because it's well supported, it's not starting to wriggle, it's not starting to stress, it's not in pain, and it means for a calmer handling sort of position, I suppose.
And you said with the death adders, you're saying it's ideal for the small, little, heavy-bodied snakes.
Yeah. Works really well for death adders.
That's cool.
So
maybe I should check.
Or Vipera.
It's exactly where I'm going with this. Yeah. So maybe I should check one out for my little rattlesnakes and the smaller Vipera.
So we saw I think is it Snake Professional, the guys that have done something similar to the Midwest version. That they had some stuff at the ham show where they had I think they call it a butterfly hook, which is like a 2 foot long version for baby snakes, and that'd be perfect for things like little Vipera and stuff like that.
I'll check it out.
Nice.
Now, just going back to photographs, because for me, being quite a simple creature, the thing I love about your book is the quality of the photographs. I mean, it is genuinely outstanding, and you get so used to seeing the same sort. You get so used to seeing the same sort of photographs in various books, particularly with Australian stuff, because there isn't a great deal of publications on Australian stuff. So you see the same style of image, you see the same sort of image. The images in your book were absolutely fabulous, and some of the species haven't been photographed a great deal before. How many? I know you said you had a lot of help with that, but how many of those photographs are actually your photographs? And did you have to do any specific trips to go and get the photographs when you were writing the book, or did writing the book just take all your free time up?
No. We were doing little trips to go and get new photos, redo things like rough scale snakes, and redo things like stuff that we'd already seen and all the rest of it. But hey, let's get some new photos of these things. So we did do some trips for that. Because we seem to continually write, and we're writing different books and all the rest of it. We're always photographing stuff. So whenever we go out to the scrub, we're taking photos of lots of things. And it gets to show that variation too, the variation in that. We wanted to make sure that there was a mixture of things like the in habitat type photos of things, as well as headshots, as well as your typical field guide type shots as well, to really show that variation. But then also too, I mean, it's a book a lot about captive husbandry, so if we can put in things like something hatching out of an egg or something like that as well in those species accounts at times, and we'd already had enough photos to illustrate that particular point in the front of the book for the mating section or the egg laying section or whatever, then we might have snuck a few photos into the species accounts of those sorts of things as well. Wherever we knew or wherever possible, we wanted to make sure that in the species accounts we had lots of animals with locality data to try and give people location information. I suppose the one part of the book that, and it's only on 2 pages, right? So it doesn't fairly represent the amount of effort that myself and Yanni Tokala went to, was the phylogenetic tree that we've got in there. So we ran a phylogeny. We basically took all of the records of GenBank and then ran a phylogeny for the book to really give people a better understanding of the evolutionary relationships within the Australasian Elapids radiation. So a shitload of work went into that figure to produce. Yanni's a qualified geneticist. He basically said, you need to do this, you silly monkey, and that's basically what I did. So I did a lot of grunt work, and then he came along and basically put that grunt work into action, which was great. So,
but in the answer to the photo question, not the Jack question,
I'd
say a lot of the photos are also from the contributors. I mean, every single time people like Sean Scott and Hal and Busho and Shane, Gus, go, what do you want? Ryan, what do you want? Just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you need.
Yeah,
I'll tell you where I'm going
That's great.
if you need shots of something. So, yeah, it's not many of mine were in there. I'd say a decent amount of Scots were in there.
Well, I think inside the book there's about 950 photos. Of the 950 photos, well and truly, probably 650 plus either mine or Ty's photos.
There's an awful lot of pictures of you, Scott, in your vest, which I'm sure is from Scott.
That's your special time.
That's good.
That's just for you.
Looks like me and Alison are hitting the pub, and you two can have some alone time.
Yeah, I love the fact that you got a picture of your dog in there. What a lovely legacy!
I know.
That is wicked. That really made me smile when I saw that. That was great.
She was such a bitch. The camera goes up, she gets off the bed. The camera goes down, she goes and sits on the bed and like poses. Oh, it took forever to not get a photo.
That was great that you got a picture in there. Just a quick technical question, just for me.
Yeah.
With you, I find it very difficult. How do you get on in situ? Not in your snake room, but if you're out in the bush and you've got a really large snake to photograph, say something like a taipan, a decent length snake. What lenses are you using to photograph something to keep it reasonably all in focus?
I use 105mm macro for a lot of, and then I'm using a 18 to 55 as well. So if I'm photographing a 6 foot taipan or something like that, I'll be using an 18 to 55. Now my camera's got a crop factor of 1.6 on that, so it's effectively like an old school 28 to 100mm. And so I'm within 60 centimetres, I suppose, of that snake. I'm taking those images.
Wow.
So I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
And then I'll use a series of either plant sources or bin lids or something like that to curl the animal up. So you put the bin lid on the ground, and then the snake goes underneath the bin lid. Give it a little bit of time, and then you lift the bin lid off and take your photo, and then sometimes you need to go through it all again. It makes it easier if you've got a second person there. Sometimes, other times it's easier to do it by yourself.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
I only imagine that in your mind you're like, oh, I have a second person. This is gonna be great. They can help me corral things. When in actuality,
it's Ty.
Well, no, I was gonna say is in actuality, the snake's now it's looking at two predators, thinking, oh man, now I got to watch out for two of them, and it's probably gonna be more squirrely.
Yeah, it can be that way, and then invariably, you're not quite in the right spot that you want to be when you want to take the photo, and then somebody else is there and they're taking photos as well, and it's like, oh shit, and so you'll do that, or then, in some cases that Ty will be posing something up for me, lifting the lid in a certain way, or I'll be lifting the lid in a certain way, and because you're looking through the viewfinder, you're not watching the behaviour of the snake as well as what you usually would be. And so you go to take the photo, and next thing you know, there's a snake hook that's in the way that you haven't put there because the other person is going, oh, well, I'm making sure that snake's not hanging off your hand when you're taking that photo. So yeah, there's that. But then to do some of the headshots in there as well, depending on the species, I've also got a tele macro, which is a 70 to 300. So I can do a headshot on a large squirrely elapid that fills the frame with the head from 3 feet away.
That's great.
So that does make life a little bit safer when dealing with some of those things as well. So
was there Was there a species that you really wanted to get a photograph of the book, but you didn't get? Or did you manage to tick every shot that you were like, maybe a locality or a particular colour phase or something?
I really would have liked to get a good, clear, usable photo of this undescribed, or likely undescribed pygmy mulga snake from the Pilbara. It's probably closely related to the Shedecus waigeli. We've left it within waigeli. It's known from one specimen that's not in a museum, that was from photos that was sent to a number of us, and it was quite clearly that it's a pygmy mulga. It's just from about 1,000 kilometres away from every other pygmy mulga snake that's ever turned up in a completely different habitat, with a whole heap of desert in between. So it's almost certainly going to be something new. So that would have been really nice to get photos of.
Temporalis. We've got some cracking temporalis of other people, but we were hoping to go and see them ourselves, but the book just sort of came round and time ran out. So
what's the temporalis sighting, like Herper sighting? I think it was up to like 12 now, or is it more than that?
More than that.
More than that.
Now, yeah. The most recent temporalis sighting that we're aware of, there was one that was seen about 6 weeks ago, that popped up on iNaturalist of all things.
Really?
So there's a temporalis photo on iNaturalist now. There's 5 or 6 sightings now have occurred in the Northern Territory.
Wow.
And there's probably a good dozen or so that have turned up in WA. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I think they're going to be found over a much wider area than what people realise currently at the moment as well. So,
awesome.
So we've got lots of photos of those. I'd love to get more photos of more of the New Guinea adders with proper location on them. That would be nice to know. It would be nice to know some of those true localities of some of those specimens.
We also got slightly fucked with COVID, Queensland, when she shut the borders. So we couldn't leave to take photos of anything that was outside our state. And, so we did have to rely heavily on other people at some point for anything that wasn't in Queensland.
Yeah. So, and look, it was certainly an interesting experience. But we got photos of a lot of things. It would have been nice to get more photos of some of the Papuan examples of things. Glyphodon, Tristis, we got some nice photos from Dave Williams. Wolfgang Worcester gave us some great photos from Papua and stuff as well. Al Cogger sent us some stuff. Paul Freed sent us some stuff. We got it. We were very lucky to get lots and lots of photos and lots of things. The Papuan pygmy mulga snakes, it would have been nice to get some more images of those, and Shedecus papuanus as well. Would have been nice to get some more photos of them. But hey, we can always hope to get more, but at the same time.
Well, now we can just prove to the tax man that we need to travel.
Yeah. I suppose for me, it's really cemented that I'd love to get over to Papua, and eastern Indonesia as well, to go and look at some stuff. I'd love to go to Raja Ampat and go to Seram. Everyone wants to go to Seram to head over to Halmahera to go and look at some scrub pythons and some blue tongues. I'd love to go see Micropicus and death adders. So, that'd be pretty good.
Wow, the boys coming around on that.
Yeah.
That sounds, it's great to have a trip list. You need to travel. Talking of travel, how was your experience traveling to Europe and attending the ham show? Because I've just come back.
Love you.
Well, I've just come back from the Houten show in the Netherlands, And literally, as you walked in the door, all you could see was your book. It really made me laugh. So that the Hatton show it's got a big main reception area before you deviate off into the Venomous room or the various other rooms. So the main foyer had a big book stand from Chimera, and all you could see all over this stand was your book, which really cheered my day up. It was lovely.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
It was.
Did you go and tell your dungeon stories?
Say again?
Did you go and tell the dungeon stories?
No. I can't go near the bookstore. I thought I'd already spent so much money. It's ridiculous. So it's a dangerous area to go and hang
that's
around
where you made a mistake. See, when I go to a big show like Daytona, I have my money for whatever I'm going to buy, animals, equipment, whatever. And then I have a separate pocket with separate funds specifically for literature. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, but I'm not on pop star wages like you, Phil. You know.
Yeah. Look. Incredible. Is in a word. I suppose the thing that was really interesting for us was the whole trip itself. Is you're getting excited over things that you never think you get excited over. You know, you go into a foreign country and.
I no longer use escalators.
For me, yeah, for me, the one thing that really spun me out was watching a squirrel pop down the street. You know, and
yeah.
Of all things, you know, it's nothing. It's nothing for you guys because you guys are used to seeing squirrels, but there's no squirrels in Australia. So I was like, hey, there's a squirrel.
I just
180.
Yeah.
I've just been watching the squirrels jumping behind Phil. It's quite distracting.
You've
got squirrels running up the tree behind you, then jumping onto the roof, or vice versa.
Well, it's funny because I never record in daylight. You know, we do a night show, and so everything's asleep mammal-wise. But now I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, what the hell's behind me?
You've got squirrels. They're cool.
Yeah.
So
I suppose. Sorry, getting back to you saying about the ham show. Look, the ham show was incredible. It was different. We've seen reptile shows obviously here in Australia, but what we have as a reptile show is, you know, we'd fit in one room in ham.
Would have fitted, the Venomous room.
So they don't have any Venomous at our shows. Over here, you might have someone you're doing a venomous snake display or something like that, but there's no venomous snakes for sale. So yeah, walking into a venomous room and looking at these deli cups that have got, you know, snakes from all over the world, it's a pretty incredible sight. The first snake that I saw in the venomous room, though, common death adder. You know, I was just like,
really? Facial expressions, and this poor guy was so excited to show him his death adder, and Scott's like, "It's a death adder."
It's a death adder. I'm not all excited about it.
Yeah, it's a little different over here, guys. It's a little different.
I'm sitting there looking at the puff adders that were sitting like next to it. Like he had some really nice Tanzanian puffs sitting there, and they were bright yellow, and they were like, oh my, how nice are these? Yep. And I was excited about that. And then, you know, you walk over and I'm looking at twin spotted rattlesnakes and willet eye and melosis and all of these dwarf species of Bitis and some small Vipera. All this stuff's there. And it's like, wow, this is good. Oh, here, but look at this stuff. Oh, look at the Australian stuff. The Australian stuff boring. Oh, look at all this stuff. So it was different.
I want to say that I'm incredibly grateful for the experience. So here, it's nowhere near as big. It is tiny. It's minute compared to what ham was. But there's a lot more variety, I guess, in the compact size. Whereas when we were walking around ham, it just seemed to be the same thing over and over again, just with different price tags. And I guess
there was I suppose your classic stuff, and I suppose it's the same in all reptile shows, that you have a myriad of things there where it's lots of carpet pythons, lots of royal pythons, lots of corn snakes, lots of chameleons, lots of dark frogs, lots of tarantulas, etc., etc., etc. There was a hell of a lot of variety there, but it was a lot of variety of the same stuff.
And I think too, I guess being Australian, I was sort of walking around going, "I'll fucking take it home with me. That's pretty cool, but I can't do anything." Like it's
yeah.
And I think it was.
I think too, like the one thing about the ham show is that I'm not sure how much you guys are aware, but there's no social media at the ham show. There's no photography permitted. And you know, I thought you'd see a lot of people running around taking photos on the sly and stuff like that.
I saw a fair few photos.
People, for the most part, aren't taking photos over there. They're not taking photos of the show or anything like that. So,
well, I think the real reason is because nobody wants their legs broken.
I think too, though, ham is like old. So I remember when we first got together, like 20 years ago, sitting down on the couch going, "Fuck yeah, we'll go to ham one day." And this was well before, you know, the internet with all the social media and all the rest. And you can see all this on social media. And so it sort of...
Or versions of it,
yeah. And it sort of desensitizes you to... fuck. It's not even early morning.
Desensitizes you to some of the excitement, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, look, I mean, it's an incredible experience. But then also too, like we got to go and have a look at some absolutely amazing Venomous collections when we were over in Europe.
Met some lovely people.
Met some great people. Met some people that I'd only ever spoken to online for decades, and actually got to see them in person, meet them in person for the first time.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
That's pretty cool. We didn't get a lot of herping in, but we got a bit in here and there, and you know, I was pretty excited about my first Viper.
I'm going to come back to that. Put a pin in that. Just talking about the shows quickly. You're absolutely right, Ty. Ham is a very old show now, and it is kind of the most commercial show. It's a show for volume rather than rarity. So. Yeah. But you've got Houghton, which is almost as big as ham, and Venomous-wise is much, much, much bigger than, or the Snake Day, Houghton Snake Day.
We'll be there 25.
Yes, come over. But Snake Day particularly is more about the species rather than the commerciality of it. So it's great to experience ham. I don't really go to ham anymore because it's so far away compared to Houghton. You know, you're talking about an extra day's travel in real terms for me to go to ham. But if you want variety and to see rare species and not just tables and tables and tables of royals and corns, I would say Houghton is now by far the better show to go.
There's obviously a market for it, though, because so many people were there and obviously continue to go back.
I would say ham is more a commercial in terms of people would do large trade. So people that are traders in animals, i.e. they run pet shops in their countries or whatever, will tend to go to ham because they're going to buy 40 royals or they're going to buy 200 corn snakes or whatever. But people that are going for a particularly rare species would probably go, like myself, I would always rather go to Houghton Snake Day because you're going to get species, and particularly venomous species, that you never get an option to see anywhere else.
I think the one thing that was interesting about the ham show is that when I was talking to the main organizer of it, he was saying that they routinely have a consortium that comes over from Hong Kong and Japan. You have people that come from India, you have people that come from Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Korea. So basically all over the old world, you've got people that come over, and then you also got people that come over from the US as well. And they come over with bloody fat pockets. to pick up these different morphs and different things that are out there. And look, the reality of it is that they're coming over for not really so much venomous. They're coming over for the other side of the hobby, which is probably a little bit, we call it a side, but realistically, it's the majority of the hobby that's outside of
100%. Yeah.
But it was cool. I just want to say, because I realised I sort of not dished it, but it was really cool to be able to get the experience, to be able to go to something that is basically a historical event in herpetology. Really, it's been around for so long, and I'm really grateful for the experience. I just think I probably built it up more in my head.
Yeah.
It's
been around, it's so cool, it's huge, and I think not I was disappointed. I was just sort of, wow, it's ball pythons again. Wow, it's the same morph. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
How did it feel to see when you walked in to see your book all over the stall?
Well, after getting over the shock of Scott driving in the wrong side of the road and almost killing us on the way there.
Yeah.
No, hang on. Let's make that quite clear. Everywhere.
No, drove into a bus. How much more clearer could it have been?
No, they're on the wrong side of the road.
No, it's the right side. It's the right side. The right side is on the right.
No.
So the legislation over there is backwards, right? Nipper, I believe that we drive on the correct side of the road.
100%.
Yeah, now he says correct, not right.
I'm a little bit more eloquent than you, Philip.
Oh, thank you.
So I would ascertain that, we drive on the correct side of the road. They've got it ass backwards.
100%. 100%.
So, at the end of the day, if they were intelligent about it and they drove on the correct side of the road, then we wouldn't have had these issues.
You want to wake up sleeping teenagers in a hurry?
I'm outnumbered. I don't have a horse in this race.
No, you really don't. But that's all right. It's okay. It's fine.
I shouldn't really bag him. I'm not fucking driving. No way. Narrow roads, no way.
Well, it's funny is when my uncle who lives in Sydney, when he used to come, for the summers, just for a month or two, just to hang out with family, it would take him a solid 3 weeks to not almost hit someone driving on our side. So I can only imagine.
It was the second
crossing
week.
The street too.
Yeah.
Right, like crossing the street's a pain in the ass as well, right? Because we look to the left, then we look to the right, then we look to the left again before you walk across the street. And you do that subconsciously. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys do it the opposite way, you're looking to the right, to the left, and then to the right again. So that's different.
It was the second week when I finally stopped thinking, oh, how romantic's he? He's opening the door for me. I'm like, fuck, cars around now.
That's good. I didn't even think of that.
So you said you visited some European collections, people's private collections.
Yeah.
What did you think of how Europeans keep stuff? Did you think it was different to how you would keep in Australia, or was it basically the same?
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a larger push, and I think it's a push that we're seeing across the hobby in general, I suppose, that there's a genuine push for less numbers, larger enclosures, better enclosures across the board. You still have a place for plastic tub style keeping. You still have a place for rack systems and things like that. But having animals in planted vivariums with good quality lighting, with good quality heat sources, natural enrichment, it seems to be more common and more prevalent. And frankly, the systems that they're using in Europe are considerably further advanced due to the size of the industry over there compared to what we're seeing in Australia. I mean, Australia is difficult in the sense that it's really hard to get some of these pieces of equipment that you guys are easily able to obtain.
Right.
Classic example of that is, say, a PVC enclosure. PVC enclosures over here are ridiculously expensive compared to the prices that you can get them overseas.
And I've got to say, we were welcomed into, at some times, complete and utter strangers' houses. We were welcomed in with open arms. Hospitality was sensational. It was just all round awesome. We were so lucky.
I suppose, and I suppose if I could summarise it simply, was we went round to a person's house, and he was he invited us in and showed us some of his collections and some of his enclosures, and he was telling us about the leaf litter that he has got a friend who works at the Tropical Botanical Gardens, and he goes to the Tropical Botanical Gardens to collect leaf litter from the tropical plants, so that the leaf litter that he's putting into his bioactive enclosures matches the species that he's keeping inside those enclosures.
And he would be the best private keeper I have seen by far. Like, what?
This guy's enclosures, he has rocks from the locations where possible of where these animals are from. He uses soil structures from where these animals are from. And so you literally look inside an enclosure and you're looking at a piece of Suriname, and then you're looking at a piece of Iran, and then you're looking at a piece of the Pilbara, and then you're looking at a bit of this and a bit of that. And you literally can sort of look around the room in his snake building, and literally it takes you around the globe looking at, Pseudocerastes uricanoides, the Iranian spider-tailed viper. And then you're looking at a black-headed bushmaster from Costa Rica. You might be looking at a gaboon viper from Tanzania, and then you might be looking at an atrox and some Pilbara death adders or something like that. So to see collections like that, incredibly large enclosures with integrated trap box systems.
Well thought out room.
Really well thought out room, well thought out ventilation systems, lighting systems. It was an incredible setup.
And he did everything himself, the rock work and everything.
Yeah. And then, he was doing some further work, and he goes, "Oh, well, come down and have a look at this stuff if you're interested." And it was a room that he's building currently at the moment. It's got nothing in it. So you got to see these enclosures half done. And so how he's setting those up and using things like pond liners to provide basically like a really big area for this substrate to go into, while it doesn't damage the timber work and things like that as well from this excessive humidity. So that was really interesting to see. So that was great. And then to get out and look at other systems, how people keep these animals that I've always looked at. It's pretty cool to see all those sorts of critters, that's for sure.
And you managed to get in a little bit of Euroherping while you was out there.
Yes.
How did that
go? Photos.
You did send me some pictures. It was nice to get every day. I was looking at little pictures that you sent.
Yeah, so we went over to we were obviously in Germany, but then we went over to Holland as well. And when we were in Holland, we were lucky enough to come across a Vipera berus. So that was pretty exciting to come across my first viper in the wild.
That's mad. That is the most iconic European snake. I'm so pleased you found it. That was wicked.
Well,
I can only imagine what the look on your guys' faces, and like having been able to be with Nipper, seeing the rattlesnakes, like it's epic.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. And I didn't have my best foot forward in regards to my appearance when I was pretty excited.
In my defense, he said, take a photo. And I said, don't pull that stupid, shitty expression. And he goes, take a photo. So I took a photo. And it's a cracker of a photo.
Nice.
That's right. one of those ones that will come out every now and then, I'm sure. But yeah, very, very excited to see that. That was we were put onto a location. We had some great help from people like yourself, Nipper, that sort of said, hey, this is where these things are sitting. So when you go into that habitat type, this is where you should be looking.
Eric was lovely too.
Yeah, Eric was very helpful as well. And so we went to this location that was meant to be a very good spot for adders. And it was awesome. It was a beautiful sunny day. And we were like, right, okay, this is going to be great. Temperature's a little bit on the cool side, but it shouldn't be too bad. It was high teens. I'm like, well, as a European viper, it surely can deal with cold temperatures.
There were people walking their dogs, and we were just walking backwards and forwards around the area looking, and they just kept staring. I think they thought we'd lost our keys.
So I'm sort of zigzagging through these fens and thorny scrub things, and basically the grass was about thigh high, I suppose, and in between that you had thistles and little spiky plants and flowers and stuff like that. So it was very, very thick, and you had these little patches of bare ground in places there that were sheltered from the wind, that were getting sun. And so, that's where we're concentrating a lot of our effort to try and see these things. And I'd spent probably 2.5 hours, and Ty spent 2.5 hours basically zigzagging through this stuff. And I was getting a little bit disheartened, thinking to myself, well, not quite sure what's going on here. Anyway, so I ring the guy that put us onto the spot and said, what's the go? And he goes, oh, yeah, if it's not 20 degrees, don't bother. And this is like 16 degrees. I'm like, oh, shit.
It was 30.
Oh, 13 degrees, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, 13 degrees felt like 16. And I looked at it and I was like, right, this is it. Well, all right, I'm going to do one last pass. And literally, Ty had already started walking back towards the vehicle, and I yelled out, yes! And
my mind is already in Amsterdam, if you get my drift.
Ty turned around and told me to go get sorted. And so you didn't, and then a whole heap of other expletives, and then yeah, I was giggling like a schoolgirl making faces.
That's great.
That was really cool. So we set about getting some photos of this beautiful little, likely a female adder, as I understand. There's sexual dimorphism in these things.
Fiery little thing, that's for sure.
So got photos of this little snake, and if it was off on its merry way, and yeah, that was that. And then the other big ticket item for me that I really wanted to see over there was a chordate. We don't have any chordata here in Australia, so there's no salamanders, there's no native newts, so we don't have any of that stuff over here. So I really wanted to see newts in the wild. So we went to a location that's pretty good for fire salamanders and also a few species of newt. I literally we'd gone out for dinner, and then straight after dinner I spent 6 hours flipping logs during the day, basically looking for these things. And anyway, I found a newt that was about 30 millimeters long, total length. And I was very excited about this newt. And they weren't that excited about it. They were like, oh, yeah, that's just alpestris sort of thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, no worries. And I didn't bring the camera with me on this because we were going out for dinner sort of thing. So I didn't bring the camera. So I like taking a few phone photos, and they're like, oh, yeah, we've got these in the garden. So swing past in the morning and we'll go and have a look. So anyway, so the next day we're there and we're looking at what was that afternoon? We went back there that afternoon, and we went back there that afternoon, and Natasha literally rolled one rock and got 6 newts in the time that it took me to find all these others. And I was like, well, she's obviously a better herper than you are.
That's
I've
great.
got nothing there. I've got nothing to say to that. So yeah, did have the camera for that, and then was obviously able to get some photos. So between those two things, that was great. And yeah, I suppose we're keen to get back and see different things again, and see the way different people do things. And it's already given us some ideas. The one thing that we did see, and I'd never seen it here in Australia, we've used a moist hide, right? So it's basically a plastic tub that sits within the enclosure, a bit like a nest box that you put together and fill it up with sphagnum moss. The one thing that we noted with some of the people over there is they.
Sorry, I have a dog spot.
One thing we noticed over there is people had kitty litter trays inside their enclosures that have dry substrate, and it's a kitty litter tray that they pour water into, so they've got a little moist section of soil, and the whole idea of that is so that the soil doesn't get rotted. You don't ruin your bioactivity in your substrate by having a really wet bioactive mix. You can have really quite a dry mix, but you can have a wet section that the snakes can then go down, and they'll either lay their eggs in there if they're an egg-laying species, or if they need that excessive humidity, a little bit more humidity because they're coming up into a shed cycle or something like that, they can use that. So that was something that they had that in a lot of enclosures. Lots and lots of enclosures had these moist setups, whereas over here we tend to mainly use that for the species that require more humidity. So we have really large enclosures ourselves, and so we're going to start incorporating these humid sections, I suppose, humid substrate sections in our enclosures to give the snakes a choice. They'll probably just make a big mess, and there'll be more shit for me to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, you'll work the bugs out, and it's easy because you could take the whole pan out,
Yeah.
It's something I do, particularly for my milk snakes and for the pine snakes. Certainly for the boiger and stuff like that, I do have these. Not sure what they are. I think they're school dinner tray or something like that. That you do the school washing up in when you was young. So they're just like big plastic troughs, and I normally have either really sodden, large scale orchid bark in there, or I'll just have neat sphagnum moss, but really, really saturated, with a cover over it. Over it. It's just as you say, it's just an option for something for species that might, in their natural habitat, be seeking out slightly damper areas.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, we've always provided ample humidity to our animals, but to have that in there constantly in the enclosures as a standard, we thought was sort of something a little bit different. We hadn't seen that here in collections over here, so that was something a little bit different. What else did we see? I suppose the other thing that we noticed was the different mentality when it comes to manipulation of specimens. So we're not hands-off keepers here. So we'll put our hands on animals. We'll use, hook and tail methods and tailing methods and things like that. Historically in the past, I've free-handled venomous snakes as well. I've changed my tune on that after going into anaphylaxis back in 2005. I have historically free-handled venomous snakes. I
like a reformed smoker now, aren't you?
Something like that. I'm not anti-free-handling or anything like that, but we don't free-handle. But we still engage with our animals fairly regularly. We'll hook and tail things out, and that's what we'll do for the most part. We don't tend to use trap boxes or complete non-contact methods for the manipulation and the cleaning of the animals, whereas we saw a lot more of those sorts of style setups over there where people were having the animals go into a trap box, and then once the animal was secured in the trap box, then they would look to open the enclosure to conduct their maintenance.
Let me ask you this: do you think that is and there's really no way to answer this, but in your personal opinion, having just seen these collections, do you feel that it's not so much that the keeper is weary of removing the animal themselves, but it's more so because it's so naturalistic, or it's a bigger vivarium and there's more natural decor and things? It's almost easier for the vivarium to use a shift box or a trap box, opposed to trying to manually remove said animal. It's going to knock stuff over and uproot things and whatever else.
I don't think it had, I honestly think it was for the enclosure and probably a little less stress on the snake, because all of the people that we are talking about are extremely competent.
Yeah, I think they're sort of a little from column A, a little from column B, I mean, it's more that it would be very difficult to remove an animal out of some of those enclosures without destroying that enclosure.
Yeah, it's almost a repetition training thing too.
Yeah, so that was one thing, and I did ask the question. I said, if you want to get the snake to go into the hide box, or how do you deal with that? And he goes, I pull the hide out, right? Open that up, and then you can put some mouse scent or something like that. As soon as you put that hide back, those elapids and a lot of those large vipers will go into those hide boxes to see what the hell you've just put in there, right? And so they'll go in on their own accord pretty quickly, and then you can go in and you can maintain the enclosure. So that was different, but I suppose at the same time too, we spent a lot of time hooking and tailing things and stuff like that, whereas there was more resistance, I suppose, to opening an enclosure with an unrestrained elapid sitting within it, or an unrestrained viper within it, than what we're used to. So, not to say that it's any better or any worse. It's just a different setup, a different way of thinking, I suppose. I suppose too, the other side of it is over here we're used to having very good access to things like antivenoms and things like that, whereas over there it's a little bit more hit and miss. So
I think too, you just get used to what you know. Like, we don't know any different, so we do how we do, just as you guys would if you hadn't seen other countries or people from other countries who do things differently. So you just get used to it, and you do it a certain way without, I guess, thinking about it too much, because it's what you're used to. And then it's different when you travel. You just, I don't know, I just assumed it was going to be the same, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose the one thing that was interesting, and it was we were looking at a collection and looking at some animals, and then they produced some Australian red-bellied black snakes that were juveniles. He sort of said, "Oh, what do you think of these?" And I just opened the enclosure without thinking. I pulled the snake and I'm looking at the snake. I'm looking at the tail on it. He was asking me some questions about what I thought with regards to the sexing of it. And so, without even thinking, I'm tailing this snake, and then I realised, hang on a second, I'm not in Australia anymore. And I sort of looked across, and the person was like, "Oh, we don't usually handle like that." And this is a black snake. This is an animal that I've been handling for 30 plus years. It was a juvenile red belly. It wasn't something that really presented any serious threat. So it's not something that, and I wasn't being rough with the animal. I certainly wasn't free-handling it or anything like that. I wasn't putting myself at undue risk. But it was just a different mentality, I suppose, to what the Europeans were used to looking at.
I think you're exactly right in terms of your whole venomous experience is around elapids, really, isn't it? Yeah. In Australia, whereas for Europeans, elapids are a very, very small part of the hobby because we can't physically get many of them. So most of our venomous keepers will have come up with Vipera first of all, or maybe some Crotalus or stuff like that. So they're techniques are probably based around that sort of species. And when for us, the top of the pyramid, for want of a better word, will be the bigger elapids. Whereas for you, elapids, as you say, is your bread and butter. You're quite happy to stick your hand in there, risk aversely, and it's just normal for you. But for most European keepers, an elapid is the top of the tree, and will be the risk assessments for that will be apex risk assessments.
Yeah, and look, it was great to sort of see those differences. But it was also interesting to play with rattlesnakes and bitters, and I suppose the one animal that really spun me out was an icus that was literally 80 millimeters long from the tip of its nose to the tip of its tail. It was these
little cocktail straw.
Yeah. These were hatchling. Was it Trocheri or was it? It might have been Ocellatus, I think. I think it was Ocellatus.
Nice.
And so these things are tiny, right? And we're taking some photos of them, and I loved. They're the best snakes to take photos of because you literally put them down and they curl up for you. Like, this is just brilliant.
Yeah, they're hams.
How much we miss.
And so I've got this little saw scale viper in front of me, and I'm taking photos of it, and I'm hearing this like little buzzing noise. What the fuck is that? Hang on, that snake is soaring, and so I'd never heard a saw scale viper actually soar, and it was incredible the amount of noise this neonate was making.
The volume it was producing.
The volume it was producing for the size was incredible, but you couldn't hear it. So Ty was standing 3 feet above this thing. I'm on my knees photographing this thing on the floor, and Ty couldn't hear it from where she was. But when you got your head down and you're taking the photos and all the rest of it, here you can hear this thing buzzing away. It was really, really quite incredible. And then you hear the adults going off their head when we were taking photos of those. So the noise on the adults was considerably louder, but to have these little baby saw scale vipers, the amount of noise that they were making, that was a very interesting sort of.
It's sort of sad. Like, there's so much we're not
used to seeing.
If you don't know people in the zoo system that have the animals to begin with, there's so much that keepers here miss out on.
Yeah, and too, like the keepers in Australia aren't working with things like icus. They're working with large, it's large cobras, and a couple of African species, a couple of Asian species. We've got very few varieties in the vipers and the rattlesnakes. It's Atrox, Adamantius, Lepidus, some Schistera species have been kept in Australian zoo systems. Bothricus, Shrigolo, what else? Gila monsters.
Which I think it's great that there is those there, but I almost feel like because the private sector doesn't have as wide assortment to choose from, those animals are almost going to not be good training animals. You can use it for education, but an Adamantius at a zoo that's been coddled and babied for its entire life in the zoo is not going to react like one that's in a private collection or even in the wild. So we don't have private collections of things like Adamantius.
Yeah. There's no private exotic venomous keeping in the country, or no legal. Right. No legal. There's people that are always doing things the wrong way, I suppose, but there's certainly no legal private exotic venomous keeping over here. And so that was something a little bit different to go and look at that stuff. And then to walk into a pet shop and see chameleons in a pet shop and firetail skin. We walked into one pet shop and there's Lathanotus in there, for fuck's sake.
And a fucking sloth.
So, to see a Lathanotus, that was like a bit of a disappointment. My first Lathanotus was in a pet shop. Like, that's shit.
Welcome to Europe. You can get anything for the right dollars.
It was admittedly apparently a pet shop.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh my God, you went there? Did you wash?"
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got pet shops like that everywhere around the world as well. So
Not quite as big, I don't think.
yeah, that was a very
massive.
large pet shop.
And I want to give a shout out. My German is absolutely embarrassingly, disgustingly horrible. You're going to need to pronounce.
Oh, yeah. So we went down and saw Reptilian Shindig, I'm going to say, which is down on the southern Germany, Austrian border. Beautiful little reptile zoo. If you're ever in Germany, go over and have a look.
They've got sensational.
They've got a really nice internal collection, but then they've got this collection of outside pits that have got a whole heap of different vipers and stuff like that. And we were
the loveliest people too.
Yeah, and so they breed a lot of Eipper in those pits.
Okay.
Which was very, very cool.
Phil could go out there and tick them off on his Eurolist, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure. So that was cool. So Rebecca and Udo over there were great. Klaus, Frank, and then Felix at the Frankfurt Zoo as well was really helpful.
Yeah, we got to feed giraffes. That was awesome.
Yeah, so we got to do some really cool things. And then, I suppose the other side of it, and we started off talking about books, and, in some ways for me, I've always had an affinity for herp books. And I think in some ways it's that affinity is there because we can't keep exotic reptiles. I can have exotic reptile books, and so to walk into the Chimera shop and see all of these titles from across the globe, Jesus, it was pretty bloody impressive. I will
stood behind the camera for a while.
I will say though that it was good that we had weight limits on our luggage. So yeah. So, and we exhausted that weight limit to the kilo as well, mind you.
Yeah, you guys came home with a hell of a stack.
Yeah. So that was good. That was really good. And so I suppose with that is that we've taken on a new venture that's going to be coming around full circle. That will hopefully allow us to expand more on our book collection at some point in time. So we'll just leave it at that for now.
Nice.
But yeah,
nice.
What else have we got going?
Got another book.
Yeah, so we're working on another book at the moment, and
really,
yeah, stupidity is exceedingly common in these parts. So we've already started working on that, and I've got the revised edition of the Frogs of Australia that should be out early in the new year as well. So we've started seeing layouts come back for that now. So that's all fun and games. So yes, no rest for the wicked. That's all right.
Keeps you youthful, brother.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Why not? Yes. So.
Well, we best let you get to bed. What time? It's got to be quite late over there now.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we best let you go to bed. Scott definitely needs his beauty sleep.
I've got a head for radio, Nipper.
That's right. Just a couple of quick points. Just to go back. When you come herping with me in the UK, 20 degrees is quite hot for Berus. My rule of thumb, if there's bees flying, the snakes will be out basking because the bees need a certain temperature. So that's a good little tip. If there's bigger bodied insects flying,
so large
bumblebees and stuff like that. Yeah,
they were flying, so that's good.
So, yeah, so they'll be out. And I was lucky enough, just going back to you talking about Echis, I was lucky enough to hear adults in the desert, and the sound really, really carries. You think you're looking for an enormous snake, and as you say, and then you come across this thing that's just like 12 inches long or something like that. It sounds huge. They're a fabulous little species, much like here in
I
rattlesnakes
did
in
find
the
it was-
States.
I did
Say
find
again?
it was quite directional,
Yeah.
depending on sort of where you were placed. If you were sort of directly over the top, it was really quite loud. But if you were to the side, either laterally in front of it or behind, it wasn't anywhere near as prominent. I suppose it's probably not a bad adaptation for a large, heavy hoofed predator that was going across the top to try and get these things to stop, I suppose, to stop from crushing them, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
Ideal.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Is there anything you'd like to put out before we leave? Any more shout-outs?
Yeah, look, I suppose, we've got a bit of a list here of a lot of the people that sort of helped us with the book. Oh, that's all right. I'll butcher it anyway, just out of hell. But look, we'd like to just sort of thank people like Shane Black, Busho, Hal and Heather Cogger, Nathan Clout, Adam Elliott, Ryan Francis, Ash Horn, Christy Jensen and Matt Somerville, Corey Kawaro from Sydney Reptile Relocation, Scott Kickham, Ross McGibbon, Angus McNabb, Sean Scott, Yanni Torkala, Rob Valenic, Steve Wilson, Wolfgang Worcester, Anders Zimney, and then to Josh Linus, Adeline Robertson, Dana Savarelli, Dave Williams. These people were instrumental in putting this book together. They've all provided some really important either images or discussion or anything like that, and frankly the book's better for it for the help of these people. And a book like this is something that a lot of people put together as opposed to just two people that are writing it. So we really appreciate the help that those people have extended to us, and we hope that the book that's come out has done their assistance justice, I suppose.
And I'd like to say thank you too to Andreas, Natasha, and Ballard. They're amazing.
The Chimera team, great. So, and I suppose the other thing is too, right? I didn't finish high school, right? I haven't got a university degree. Ty has ADHD. So
Just label me, sunshine.
Yeah, just label me.
Right in front of the bus.
Yeah, 100%, right? But I suppose the point that I want to reiterate is that things can be difficult, things can be tough, but that doesn't mean to say that they're not worthwhile doing, right?
All my high school and primary school reports say she won't amount to anything. She can't focus. She talks too much. She doesn't pay attention. Just,
to the people out there that if they're looking to maybe do this or maybe write a paper or maybe put together a booklet or whatever, don't listen to the people that say that you can't do it. Put it together and have a crack. Have a go at it. And
hell yeah.
It's every keeper that is keeping and working with animals can actually go towards the collective knowledge of the herp community on how to better keep these things, right?
Well, look at Nikki with the crocodile skinks. That's amazing what she's recorded.
The stuff that, I don't know if you guys follow the stuff from Nikki and Alexander England, but, she's shown that she posted videos on social media the other week of crocodile skinks literally burying and reburying their eggs and rotating their eggs and things like that. So here's
triple notice.
Triple notice. Yeah. So,
awesome.
So digging an egg up, rotating the egg, and then reburying it again. These things are apparently you can't rotate reptile eggs. Well, we know you fucking can, because I literally grabbed a taipan egg and all the way through the incubation, I turned it a quarter of a turn every couple of days to see what would happen, because we all get told that if we drop a reptile egg, they drown.
Yeah, you can't roll them. They got to
can't roll them. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, it's probably not a great idea, but you can certainly do
I
that.
think they're a lot more durable than we give them credit for.
Yeah. To quote Brian Barnett, reptile eggs are designed to hatch. So, you know, at the end of the day, they're not so precious. But in a roundabout way, getting back to that, you know, if people wrote down more and recorded more about what they saw in captivity and published it, whether it be in herp journals or whatever, it would be good. I mean, there's some online journals out there that are great. Submit the data, submit the information across to people so people can access it, they can learn. And Phil, I hope you're taking notes about these stiletto snakes that you're working with.
100%, man. 100%.
So,
You guys are inspirational. It's amazing.
So,
Yeah. Well, a huge thanks for staying up and coming on to speak to us. I know that a shed ton of people want to talk to you about your book, and I really appreciate, and Phil really appreciates you coming on and talking to us.
We love you guys.
I know, you know, you're lucky that you've won the life lottery because you've got Scott. So, you know, we're all good.
Did he pay you to say that beforehand? Or?
No.
See, I was going to say the same thing to him because he has her.
It's a win-win. For anybody that is living under a rock and hasn't seen a copy of the book, we will put a link in the bio. But, you know, if you are into venomous snakes in general, or if you're specific into elapids, do go and get a copy of this book. It is 100% the benchmark work, and it might have imitators going forward, but I don't think anyone's going to do a better publication on elapids, certainly in my lifetime.
And
so
to quote the podfather, Mr. Eric Burke, he doesn't keep Venomous, but the amount of husbandry knowledge and thinking outside the box that this book has to offer to just our community as a whole, regardless of what kind of animals being kept, you know, it's worth getting the book just for that.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Happy days. Well, you know, I'll have to tell Eric that his check's in the mail as well.
That new divorce was worth it.
Yeah,
look, and you know, I suppose this is the good side of social media in a lot of ways, right? So, you know, we're literally across the globe talking to each other. You know, we've become friends from people that are literally on the other side of the planet. And, you know, we often see social media as being something that is a vector for free handling videos and bitching and moaning about the reptile community and the paucity that social media does have. But then you've got things like this where you've got social media that has brought people across the globe together to talk about the collective love of these incredible animals that we work with. So, you know, we can use our powers for good, you know.
100%. 100%.
Absolutely.
I'd just like, before we jump off, I'd just like to say a little shout out to Eric. I'm going to crucify his surname now, Eric Watchell, which I know.
You totally don't have a dungeon, Eric. Don't listen to Nipper.
So they do have a dungeon, Eric. Be very afraid. No, it was cracking to meet you at the Houghton show. It was really cool to talk and keep up the good work. I've had a lot of people friend requested me on Facebook. I don't really use Facebook, so I'm not being a knob by not replying. Love to talk to people, but I tend to use Instagram, not Facebook. So I'd be very, very pleased to speak to you on Instagram. Follow me, get me up over 1,000. But yeah, I don't really use Facebook. And that's me.
Fantastic. Look, if people want to get in contact with either me or Ty, feel free to reach us out on Facebook for the most part, or on Instagram. I'm sure our links will be around somewhere. Otherwise, Google us. It's not too hard to find. We've got a surname that's quite distinctive, so it's pretty easy to find us.
Or give Scott a call. He loves that.
Yeah. Yeah. Call me in the middle of the night. Why not? Everyone else seems to. So yeah, look, yeah, if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out. We don't bite often.
And the main website is Nature for You, but spelled out.
Yeah, so www.wildlifedemonstrations.com is the website.
Okay, excellent.
So yeah, happy days.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This is a long time coming. I love having you guys on. Love chatting with you guys. And the book's fantastic, and we hope we can get more people on it.
Thank you. Is Ty your first return guest?
Yes, she
is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She's also our favourite guest.
Hands down.
Wow.
I'm pretty partial to her as well. So.
He's only saying that because he hasn't had dinner yet.
Yeah, can leave the arse out of a low-flying duck.
That's good, man. That's good.
Happy days. All right, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us. Have a good night.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.